Hello friends, and welcome back to another video from Homemaker. Homemaker is all about your home and garden. Before we start with our today's video on Peperomia Rosso, I would like to remind you to subscribe to our channel for more exciting and informational videos. And if you like watching my video to the end, please don't forget to like and share. Alright, now let's start with our today's video on Peperomia Rosso. This plant is a tropical plant which is also known as Peperomia Caperata Rosso or Emerald Ripple Peperomia. This plant belongs to Peperaceae family and originates from Brazil, Central and South America. Now the word Caperata means in Latin wrinkled, and as you can see, this plant is characterized by its dark green, deeply corrugated, wrinkled leaves which are pointed at the end. And these eye-catching plants, they're really beautiful and one of my favorite plants because the leaves of these plants are double colored. They are dark green colored on the top and they are red on the bottom. They're so beautiful, so eye-catching, so bright and vibrant. I love these plants. The foliage of this plant grows in rosette formation. As you can see, it looks like a flower from the top, and these all looks like the petals. So the foliage grows in the rosette formation, and this peperomia can grow about 8 inches high and wide. Isn't that beautiful? This plant also gives out flowers. Now those flowers are not scented, like they're scentless flowers, but they're greenish white in color and they grow at the end of the reddish spikes. Now these are the spikes, and when the plant grows more mature and the spikes grow more bigger, at the end of these spikes, the greenish white color flowers, they grow and they look really attractive and beautiful and exciting. Now, regarding the light, the Peperomia Rosso does best in bright indirect light. Now, indirect light means that they can be kept indoors, like they don't like to be in direct sunlight. Partial sun like morning sun or evening sun is also fine with these plants, but direct bright light is a big no-no for this plant. Now, when these plants are kept indoors, the fluorescent lighting is an excellent choice, and they don't like to be kept in dark, because if they're kept in dark, there is too less lighting, the plant will not grow properly. And whereas if you keep them in too much of bright light, these bright beautiful leaves, they will get scorched and they will get all sunburnt and the plant will look really ugly. Best temperature for these plants ranges from 13 to 24 degrees Celsius. This plant does not like extremes of temperature at all. So if you keep them in very cold temperatures, the plant might die. And if you keep them in too much of hot temperatures, the plant will dry out and eventually die. So this plant does not like extremes of anything, not extremes of water, no extremes of temperature, or no extremes of lighting. Like as I mentioned earlier, that too much dark light or too much bright light will affect the plant adversely. Same way with temperature and same way with water. Now what happens is that this emerald ripple or Peperomia Rosso, this cannot stand extremes. So do not allow this plant to dry out completely, or do not overwater this plant. Because of its tiny roots, they're very delicate, they're very sensitive. So if they dry out completely, the plant might die and might not regain if you water them later. So when you feel that the soil is dry, not entirely dry but little bit dry, then you must water this plant thoroughly. Now thoroughly means that when you are watering this plant, you must see that the water comes down through the drainage holes. The water should come down through the drainage holes. That you need to make sure. So thoroughly helps to make sure that all the leaves, all the roots of this plant has received the water, and also if there is any buildup of soil salts due to fertilizer or anything in the soil or in the roots, thorough watering will help to wash off all those residues and salts in the soil, and the plant will regain its growth and remain healthy. So deep and thorough watering is very important for this plant. But watering them once in a week, like once in 7 days or 10 days, is absolutely fine for them, especially when they're indoors. So you don't need to water them very often during the week. Just once in a week is just fine for them. You need to make sure that when you are watering it, never water it through the crown. Means never water them from the top, because if you water them from the top, the crown will start rotting. So you have to make sure that you water only from the bottom. So you put the water over here and not pour it from the top, because if the leaves remain wet or the stems remain wet, then it will trigger the rotting and the plant will die soon. Especially in winters, you don't need to water them too much. Just watering them once in 20 days or 30 days should be enough. But never water them from the top, from the crown. Regarding fertilization, a balanced 20-20-20 fertilizer is just the right choice for these houseplants, but you must read the instructions carefully and use a half-strength fertilizer. A diluted liquid fertilizer twice a month, and plant food after 3 watering sessions will be the right choice for this plant. And make sure that the fertilizer does not come in contact with the leaves or the stem, because they can burn the leaves and they can destroy the stems. If you have just repotted your plant in fresh potting soil or just purchased your plant, then do not fertilize it for 6 months, because the plant is still taking its time to adjust to the new environment, to adjust to the new pot. So don't fertilize it at that time for at least 6 months. In 6 months, the plant will adjust itself and then you can fertilize it. Always begin fertilizing in the first spring after 6 months. So it's very, very essential to start fertilizing your new plant in spring rather than in fall or in winter season. Now, regarding the soil, the peperomias are just like succulents. They're not succulents, but they're just like succulents, as I mentioned in my previous video on baby rubber plant or Peperomia obtusifolia. If you haven't seen that, please check that video out. So these plants are very much like succulents, and they love to be in a well-drained soil. They don't like to sit in too much wet soil. So you need to make sure that the soil is well-draining soil. But the soil should also retain some moisture. It should retain some moisture and not just dry out very quickly. So for these types of plants, cacti soil or succulent potting mix are the best. But if you don't have the cacti soil or the succulent potting mix, you can make one yourself by adding a regular potting mix with 50% of perlite and peat moss. And that will be just perfect for these plants. And you need to just make sure that your pot has got drainage holes in them, so that when you water, the water should not stand in the pot. It should drain completely. The perlite helps to keep the roots of the soil well aerated. and it makes the soil light so the roots can breathe properly and the water does not hold between the soil, whereas the peat moss helps in retaining that moisture that is required for the roots to grow and provide all that nutrition to the plant. So peat moss, little bit of perlite and some potting mix will be the perfect soil mixture for this plant. Regarding propagation, this plant is very, very easy to propagate. It can be propagated through leaf cutting or it can be propagated to stem cutting. It's up to you, whatever is feasible with you. It can be propagated. This plant can be propagated in soil as well as in water. So I'll show you some leaf cuttings that I've taken from one of my friends' place. Here it is. So now these leaves, they just look like Peperomia Rosso, but this is not Peperomia Rosso, this is Peperomia Mendoza. The difference is just in the color of the leaf on the top. The bottom is the same red color, red colored veins and red color, but from the top they've got a bit more of a frosty color rather than that green color that you can see here. It's more of the frosty color, but as I said, the peperomias are almost the same. Both of them look almost the same. It's just a change of the color. So this is a mature peperomia plant, which was leaf cutting that I've taken from one of my friends, Peperomia Mendoza. What I have done is I have chosen to do a water propagation. I've recently taken these cuttings, so you can't see any roots at the moment, but I'll surely show you when the roots are there. So I have chosen to go for water propagation because for me it's easy to keep an eye on the rootings when whether the roots are coming out, and when I see that the roots are well formed, then I can pop these leaf cuttings into the soil, the same soil mixture that I told you before. So you can go with soil propagation as well, but I prefer to go with water propagation. It's easy for me to keep an eye on them, and also it makes sure that the cutting is getting enough moisture for the roots to grow properly. Whereas if you put them in soil, you have to keep regularly watering it, and you can't see whether the roots have formed or not. So it's up to you, but you can propagate both ways. Now this plant is very resistant to diseases, but it's very susceptible to pests as well. It can get infected with mealybugs or whiteflies or spider mites, but it's a non-toxic plant and non-invasive as well. So non-toxic means that it's completely safe if you've got children or pets at home, so you can keep it wherever you want to keep. All you need to make sure is that you keep an eye on the waterings. You don't overwater it, you don't underwater it. You need to make sure that the temperatures are completely fine, they're not extreme temperatures, and you're giving it proper lighting. Also, you need to make sure that your plant is in the right pot. So if it's in if the plant is too small, if you put it in a too big pot, then it's not going to help the plant. The plant will go into shock. You need to make sure that the soil is well drained, the pot is the right size pot, and you water them correctly. That's it for this plant. And when the plant overgrows, you can prune it during springtime, and don't be afraid of pruning it, because if you are providing good care to this plant, the plant grows very quickly, so you don't need to worry about it. Go for pruning to maintain the size of this plant. So guys, this plant is very easy to take care of. It's a very, very beautiful plant, as you can see here. It's a very beautiful plant, looks good on your office table, on your tea table. It's very vibrant, its leaves look very cute, and it's a very beautiful plant. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you got all the information about taking care and propagation of Peperomia Rosso or Emerald Ripple Peperomia. If you liked watching this video, please do remember to hit the like and share button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting and informative videos like this. Thank you so much and see you next time with another video. Thank you.